Hello, and welcome to the Social Power Lab podcast, brought to you by Vokes Leadership Group.
Here we are for episode 20. I actually can't believe that there's 20 of these already. And I'm to the point, it's kind of fun because like people will ask me like, "Hey, what episode do you talk about this?" And I'm like, I actually have no idea because we're in the double digits, and that's 20 is a big number. So welcome everyone. I am here with Jedi Master Psychologist Extraordinaire, Dr. Ted Theodore Vokes, the first to my knowledge, and we are Vokes Leadership Group, and this is Social Power Lab. And we got a cool thing that we're gonna talk about today. I mean, we always talk about cool things, but one that we've really been pondering on, and one that we've it's more of an in-depth kind of response to dark personalities and part of the protection and kind of game plans that you would put forward when dealing with those folks. So I'll let Ted take it away.
Sure. And just for the record, I would be technically Edward Vokes II, as it was named from my grandfather. But
I
yeah,
actually I like that a lot. That's like, yeah, we could put that into like a fantasy novel, The House of Vokes. And then Edward the Second is like the rising king. And okay,
yeah,
problem,
no.
problem solved. Next
The
book.
strange thing is that it's not even how we framed anything in it's, oh, your name for your grandfather. That was all it was. But there was no, Ted Vokes II or anything like that. That's not. But you're like the third, aren't you? The Adrian, or at least the second.
No, I'm
I
the
think you're the
second.
second. Yeah, you're the second.
But then also all my cousins are their middle name is Adrian. So
There's many in the lineage. Yeah,
my
I got you.
parents just decided, yeah, we're just gonna take the name and you know
Run with it.
dominate it by giving it his first name. So
Yeah. Yeah. Well, all that aside, I'm excited about this episode too. This is where we're getting down in some real nuts and bolts of how to create. Okay, we talked in episodes 11 to 13 about how to neutralize power attempts from dark personalities, and all of those 14 or so steps that we train in and advise people to use when you know you're dealing with people with dark traits and their power games, their power manipulations. Um, Absolutely applied. But what we weren't able to get into that point, and now we are able to because we've given you some more data that will make this episode make more sense. And that was organizations of self, which we just sort of finished off on. We've just been talking about how different organizations of self are different power schemas, and they're more than just power, because it's, what can you access in terms of memory, and what skill sets can you access in one organization of self that would be hard to access in another one. So it's a whole, neural network for each of our organizations of self. And this episode is about how to craft an organization of self that will probably be ego dystonic for you, but nonetheless will protect you as you apply those various strategies to neutralize and not get sucked into the games that the people with dark traits are so notorious for using. And so that's what this episode is about. What do you want to add to that, Adrian?
yeah, I mean, ego dystonic just meaning that it's gonna be a bunch of strategies and traits you have to use that like aren't your normal, right? It might even be stuff that you feel kind of resistant to.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
and I can
I,
give
I don't like it.
countless examples, right? You know, just example off the top of my head, as an extrovert and a talker, um, part of this strategy is, speaking in very short sentences is one of the things that we're going to talk about.
Yeah.
And do you know how hard that is for me to do with my big mouth? That's-
Well,
but
I've met you, and anybody who's been listening may have picked that up.
yeah, and but no, like I've had to do it, right? And it does work. So
Yeah.
that's yeah.
Yeah, that's the promise. If you can create this organization of self, which is it's not very well, it's the same for everybody. That's the weird thing. right? It's a way of being that unless you've practiced it a lot, is going to be ego dystonic. And even when I have practiced it a lot, it's not pleasurable. It's not a version of Ted I like being, because I don't like being in relation to somebody who's trying to manipulate, control, denigrate, dismiss, diminish in any kind of way. But when we have to be in relation to these individuals, they're part of a family, they're part of a work team, they're your boss, they're your employee, you know, and of course, legitimate power is only one of the 12 forms, and so we have bosses who are absolutely devastated by having an employee who is dark, because there's 11 other forms of power that they're available to them to abuse. Sometimes they even try to abuse the legitimate power and undermine your legitimate power. Well, you can't tell me to do that. And many people have been like, what? Like, none of my employees say that to me, because they know I have the legitimate power to tell them to do that. But then the high conflict person will be like, well, no, you don't have the power. Um, so this organization of self that we're going to describe to you will take practice if you have not found that you've had to adapt this to your own life, because maybe, like, I had this grandmother who was very much like this, and I wish I could have brought this to my parents, and aunts and uncles. They kind of did something of a variant on this. They just kind of gravitated towards it, but we're going to make it very, very detailed, so you know how to show up when you're having to deal with these individuals. It won't be fun, but it's even less fun to be manipulated and fall into their traps. And you won't come out neutral in this one if you don't adopt this version of you that protects you from their abuses. So yeah, it's neutralizing their power attempts through this organization of self. That's really what it does. They're not going to like it either. And we'll talk by the end about their tricks to try to draw you out of this organization of self. They're going to hate it. You're not going to enjoy it. They're going to hate it, because it means that you're withholding power from them. They don't have the same triggers, the same strategies available to them. They're all going to be rebuked by this, what I think we can fairly describe. I think Adrian and I are on the same page. It's a very robotic
Mm-hmm.
organization of self. It's very scripted. It's very calm, non-emotional, and they're going to try to light a fire on your alarm system, or even your reward system sometimes, because if they're not getting it by intimidation, they might just turn around and, try to befriend you and suck you in that way too. So, but we should start with the point. It's really nice to never need this organization of self. And the way that you never need it is if, when you determine that somebody has dark traits, you just don't have them in your life, right? No contact. And many people make these choices, whether they're family. At workplace, you may not have that choice very much. If you need this job and you have a colleague or a team member or a boss who's dark, then you may want to consider looking at career options. But not everybody has that luxury either. So this is a very effective coping strategy, but the very best thing is just not to have to cope, because, well, I don't allow this person in my life. So wherever possible, you want to go no contact. If you can't do that, then this is our next best option. This organization of self, deploying the tactics that we discussed to undermine their tactics, is the way to go. And the other point that I think it bears making before we dive into the particulars is that these individuals actually, while you're interacting with them, you actually have to become, and again, this is another thing that makes it uncomfortable to be this organization of self, you have to be Machiavellian. Now, that doesn't mean you become Machiavellian, and it doesn't mean that you play dirty, but you're going to withhold information in the course of creating this organization of self from them. so that they can't weaponize your behavior. So you have to be strategic in these situations. And then we're saying, as soon as you're not interacting with somebody who's dark, go back to all your other rich, wonderful organizations of self that are not Machiavellian, that are genuine and sincere, and what I'm saying is what I mean, and that kind of thing. Is that fair to say, Adrian?
Yeah, and I mean, and we we don't want you to like literally be like, I'm a Machiavellian now, right? It's more like we got to do, things that Machiavellians would do typically, right? Like things like withholding information, kind of
Holding.
strategizing how to work around somebody. Um, yeah, like just a lot of stuff that like we don't really want to do, right? Like we would just most of us would love to give people the benefit of the doubt or just be kind of fair with them. And but again, the thing to remember is that people with dark traits are not like socially affected by the things that we care about the way that
Yeah.
we are, right?
And they
um
certainly don't care about us. They
yeah, like
care about having power over us, but they don't care about us.
yeah, like there's so many just ways that you can see, like, actually, I forgot to tell you this. I went to Pelee Island last weekend, and
Ah, cool.
yeah, did the whole golf cart thing again. And yeah, like it's just interesting. Like I was around people I didn't know all day, right? I probably talked to 100 strangers that day, and with each interaction, every person was great, right? Like there was yeah, just like, hey, how's it going? Like, where are you from? Yada, yada, yada. Right? Really nice people, really nice interactions. And that's what we can expect from majority of the world, right? We would hope.
80% of the world.
80%, right? But then there was one time, oh my God, I didn't tell this story yet on the podcast, I don't think. Tell me if I did, though. But there was one year where, so me and my girlfriend, we go to Pelee Island every year. And it's just really fun to rent a golf cart and you just drive around the whole island and do whatever you want. Go on the beaches, go to the lighthouse thing, explore in the forested areas. It's really fun. And so I had parked the golf cart, and then all of a sudden, as I was walking away from the parking lot, there was this guy who got in my golf cart and was like trying to drive away with it. He didn't have the key though, so I don't know what he was trying to do. But so I turned around and I was just gonna go like, oh, he might think it's his cart. I should go tell him it's not. Right? They all look the same. And I just walk up to him like, hey, how's it going? And he walks up to me like very closely, and he's like, I'll take those keys. And I'm like, no, you won't. Like, what do you mean you're gonna take those keys? And then I don't know. Apparently, he couldn't find his friend or something. He was also very intoxicated, and yeah, he's like, yeah, my friend just vanished. So give me those keys. And I'm like, dude, you're not taking my golf cart keys. Like that's ridiculous, right? And he was trying to kind of aggress with me, which doesn't really work because I'm just, so bubbly that I'm just going to turn the situation bubbly anyway. And yeah, long story short, I just told him, like, hey, man, listen, if you're really concerned about your friend, let me give you a ride to the police station right there. Because there's a OPP station on Pelee Island. I'm like, yeah, we can go in, we can check. And then all of a sudden he was like, oh, no, no, no need for that. And his buddies pulled up and they're like, get in the truck, you idiot. And then I was just, and then I just for, fun measure, again, this was a little bit Machiavellian of me. I knew what I was doing. I told the buddies, I'm like, hey, listen, like, he's really concerned about your friend. Why don't we go down to the police station there and get some help, like just to kind of scare him a bit, and not to scare him, but like to get
Well,
them to screw off,
underscore.
right? Right? Like it's
Yeah.
like just kind of proving like you guys are being ridiculous. And yeah, anyway, I'm pretty sure that their friends, they just got into a fight with their friends or something because they were all drinking and their friends went somewhere else. And I'm sure everybody was fine, right? We never heard about anything in the paper of people going missing on Pelee Island. But yeah, it was one of those things where, like, God, I think I've been there like 5 to 7 times now. In all of those times, out of the hundreds of people that I spoke to, he was really the only one who I'm assuming, was maybe high conflict, right? There's other factors there, but like it's, when you just say, hey, how's it going to somebody and they kind of get right in your face and tell you to give them the keys to your vehicle.
There's something going on there.
something
Yeah,
something off there, right?
yeah,
So yeah, but no, like we just, kind of like Ted said with the organization itself, is you got to be calm, you got to be collective, you can't be reactive.
yeah,
And you gotta sometimes you gotta say things that you don't want to. And like when I said like, oh, we can go talk to the cops, like I knew that they were gonna not like that, right? But I
yeah,
did it anyways to kind of
yeah.
give myself that extra armor of like, listen, like
Mhm.
I'm trying to help you, right? We can solve this problem if it's really a problem. Let's go solve it properly. But
Yeah.
no, I want to take your golf cart and drive around, even though it's linked to my credit card, so I don't know what the hell this guy was thinking. But it's like, yeah, I'm gonna give a stranger. Anyway, I gotta let that go. But yeah, so that's just one kind of little example. But
And I'd be inclined to lean into some dark traits there because just because you're drinking doesn't mean you go, that it decreases inhibitions, right?
yes,
And so it doesn't bring about something that isn't there. It sort of unleashes a little bit of what's there, or maybe a lot of what's there.
yep,
So you're not going to have somebody who is a fine, upstanding, lovely human being who gets drunk. They may be sloppy, they may be emotional, but they're probably not going to walk up to you and say, "I'll take those keys." You that
yeah.
was an overt power attempt. Uh, Whether it was unleashed further by, the consumption of alcohol or not okay.
Who knows?
Um,
I have
yeah.
more dark stories. I just gotta think of them.
Oh, we got lots.
We got,
It's what we do in the workplace is we help. One of the big things we do is help organizations identify and take on individuals who are abusing power in the workplace, and it's virtually always always grounded in dark traits. There can be power struggles between people in organizations, competitors, things like that. Neither have to be dark. And sometimes it brings out the worst in them.
yeah,
But they won't be doing that in other aspects of their life, right? The thing that makes somebody dark or high conflict is that it crosses the many domains of their life, as
yeah.
opposed to, this is my arch rival and I want that promotion more than they do. That and if we don't get it, it bruises our ego, but um yeah, so
It's their personality, not the situation,
hmm yeah,
right? Like
that's it.
situations can cause us to behave in ways like
Yeah.
competitively or based on like desire, like I really want this and I feel like I deserve this and I'm going to do everything in my power to get this promotion kind of thing, right? That could
Mhm.
make us a
Yeah.
little bit
Well,
cold and doing what
I
we have
talked
to do
I
kind of thing.
talked about how I don't like my competitive self, that organization of self. It is within me, and I work against it because I don't like who I have become when I get competitive. And I realized that by the time I was like 12, and it was like, no, I don't want to compete.
Wow. Such a
Yeah.
young age to have such a revelation.
It's like I don't like this version of me. I don't want to be it. But it doesn't mean that the impulse is there because I recognize it. But we did that in another episode. Now we're going to dive into what does this robotic flat affect organization of self actually look like? What does it do and not do when you're in this version of you that you're going to have to create? And it won't come easy. It may never come easy, but with practice, it'll become easier, if you will, right? And um, it unless you're dark, this isn't going to feel good. But it is going to give you every opportunity to not be sucked in, drawn in, beat up, belittled, manipulated, that sort of thing. So, and I just said a phrase and I should define it. I said robotic and flat affect. So flat affect kind of psychobabble for the showing of no emotion. Affect is how we see emotion in others, so you expect somebody to be surprised and they're not. Well, that's, why aren't they surprised? They're flat affect, flat emotion there, or we thought somebody would be happy and they're not about some news or what have you. So flat affect is kind of giving nothing away. So the way we say you're kind of robotic, you're not your usual engaging versions of yourself with this particular person that you've now determined as some combination of dark personality traits. So what does this look like? But before I dive in, what do you have to add on that overarching descriptor of this organizations of self to deal with dark people in your life?
I mean, not much. I just want to tell everyone to go ahead and get their favorite water wings because we're about to get deep.
Yeah, it's true. We are. Um, so what we will say here as we go into this, it is robotic, and you cannot veer away from the protocol that we're going to provide for you.
Yeah,
Um,
there's really not much wiggle room, right?
no,
Most things
there's
that we teach and most things that we do and train in psychology, since everyone knows that psychology is a very, very gray science, right? This is one of the things that we're kind of like you gotta follow it to the letter,
yeah,
right? Unfortunately, yeah, there's not much room for like improvisation and you know what? Maybe I'll just lower my guard a bit in this situation. Like, just none of
oh,
like it's
don't
not.
do it.
Yeah,
They
no.
will detect it. They will detect it, and they will lunge at that. Even if it's not an aggressive lunge, they may lunge at it with befriending and, yeah, we can be cool together. Yeah, it's going to be different going forward. Yeah, and they're trying to suck you in so that they can set you up to fail. Um, and Adrian, when we were talking about this episode, you said, you become a behavior management plan as a person,
Yeah,
right?
I mean, because and if you ever do a behavior management plan with us, um, you'll learn that we gotta keep it airtight, right? Like it becomes like a very objective, like you know, also no wiggle room, right? And
Yeah,
that's kind of what that made me kind of say that was because like you don't get to freely choose your behavior, so to speak. Like you're sticking to this heavily scripted kind of plan and going against like so many things about yourself.
yeah,
It's like you basically adopt the personality of a behavior management plan, right?
yeah. You're the embodiment of your plan,
Yeah.
right? And no means no. And I like your characterization of it, Adrian. There's no wiggle room in this. There's no, you know, well, they've behaved really well in this past week. Maybe I'll let my guard down. No, they will have been behaving well for that time, and then they will, often flip right back in there when you show that they could exercise their power games on you again. They'll be delighted to do so. So you have to have your boundaries set, and they're going to try and push as many of them as possible. It's one of the characteristics of people with dark traits. They will not respect your boundaries. So you're going to have to be really clear about that. And let's remind people of boundaries. Boundaries are a non-negotiated statement. When you do X, I will do Y. Okay. When you raise your voice, I will end our conversation. Okay. There's no negotiation. It's not will you if I will. No, it's not exchange power. It is a statement, a firm statement of when you behave this way, I will behave this way. And it's not open for negotiation. And they will hate it. Oh, you're being so unfair. They will accuse you of being high conflict or obstinate and selfish. Oh, they'll really try to pull that one
Yeah.
out.
Or you're being so rigid. What's wrong with you? And
Yeah.
one thing I want to say too is because again, before I worked here, I used to work with kids, right? And like we have similar tools that we literally use with children in a classroom, right? First this happens, then this happens, right? Like it's like a cause and effect relationship, right? And it's to help structure the children so that they know
The
what
rules.
needs to be done. Yeah, like they know what needs to be done before whatever, right? Or what happens if whatever happens, right? And it's kind of ridiculous that you're going to see some of these strategies for dealing with dark behavior and high conflict behavior. It's like it's almost like you're raising one of your kids, right? Like that's the parallel that I've heard from a lot of people is like you got to go down to, and the reason why is because it goes down to very, very, very base level psychology. Like it
Yeah,
comes,
limbic.
yeah, like it's all emotion based, it's all reinforcement based and behavior modification based. Like it's all of this kind of stuff that but unfortunately, we have to apply it to adults because this specific brand of adults don't know how to behave. So it's almost like you're, yeah. Anyway, so parents, I feel for them because they're gonna be
We
like, oh, I have to treat my, whatever in-law the same way I have to treat my 5-year-old, right? It gets kind of awkward pretty quick.
we train in this all the time. Just this week, somebody, as we were going through this in a training session, said it's toddler parenting is what it is, right? Um, because toddlers are starting to assert their will, and they're little bundles of ego, and they haven't got a prefrontal cortex that's developed yet. And we know that those with dark traits, the vast majority, their limbic system is in total control, and the prefrontal cortex just is a servant, not a partner, right? We want our prefrontal cortex, our logical reasoning center, to dampen down and manage the emotions that come up from the limbic system, and they work hand in glove, but not with those with dark traits. It's I want, and my prefrontal is only my strategy mechanism for getting what I want, or don't want,
And
because
speaking of toddlers asserting their will, I have a picture evidence of me having lipstick put on me because we're at that phase now with my niece. So
oh yes,
that was the thing earlier this week was like I need to put lipstick on Uncle Adrian. It's like, and of course I have the power to say no. Do I? Of
of course
course,
you do.
of course
Of
not.
course not. No, I want photographic evidence.
God,
We'll post it with this episode. Um, that's
unreal.
adorable.
Anyway, just had to.
That's well, we didn't have an update on Adrian's
I know.
power dynamics with
I gotta bring her up
with
once per
toddlers.
episode.
Yep,
It seems because she's just a main topic of conversation.
yep. So now with toddlers, though, you can afford to be, a little warmer and whatnot when they're behaving appropriately, not with high conflict people. So that would be one of the differences. Um, so let's go through. What you'll find is that when we did those episodes 11 to 13 on the strategies for dealing with these individuals, again, this is the organization of self you adopt to implement those strategies. So we gave you the strategies before. This is how you create that version of you that is equipped best to implement those 14 or so strategies that we provided you. So you'll hear, if you recently listened to those, all the threads of those in this version of Ted who's having to deal with, or Adrian who's having to deal with somebody who's dark. Um, so the first piece comes back to you cannot trust them, and that means that this organization of self can never let your guard down. You never assume they're being truthful. And in fact, the weird thing is, if they are telling you the truth, it's only because they calculate that telling the truth is their best way to manipulate you on what they're trying to do. So they even weaponize the truth, if you will. Right? Well, I told you the truth that time, so obviously I'm trustworthy, or what have you, right? Um, or they'll take elements of a truth and manipulate it. Um, so, so you can't trust, you can't let your guard down. So it shields up all the time. So it's a robot with shields, right? And it's like I am constantly dealing with somebody who is out to manipulate me, to reduce my power and increase their power at my expense. Or to take my power, leverage my power so that they can leverage power over somebody else. So they're trying to be nice to me and draw me in. Do not believe for a second that, whatever they're telling you is truthful. there's always a hidden agenda. So you got to keep those shields up.
Yeah. And again, half the time when they don't understand the psychology of power like you're going to, right? They're going to see your defenses as, aggressive slights toward them, but it's not. It's just you're not giving them what they want, right? And it becomes their limbic system goes like, "Wait, why isn't this working?" And then, you know, starts to kind of go downhill from there. But before we start going on, we're already at the commercial break time, so we will be right back. Stay tuned. More things coming, and let's get jiggy. I can't believe I just said that. Jesus.
Jesus, how long ago was that? Okay.
This week's spotlight is on talent management and personnel selection. Personnel hiring and promotion are some of the most powerful culture shaping moves a leader can make. Our talent management and personnel selection services combine job analyses, psychometric assessments, and culture fit interviews. By default, these include screening for dark personality traits and high conflict patterns. This will allow you to choose and develop leaders who strengthen rather than destabilize your culture. Thank you, and back to today's episode.
All right, welcome back, everybody. And yeah, we're going to dive into this organization of self, of how to protect against dark behaviors. And there was actually a thought I had during the commercial break. One of the things with creating boundaries, I find there can be a lot of people who are, I guess, questioning if they're in contact with a high conflict person or somebody with dark traits. And when we enter these situations, we usually are brought in once there's a big pool of behavioral evidence of this person causing harm, right? So if you have that pool and you're like, I've seen them do this and this and this and this repeatedly, right? And you see the no remorse, and that's how you know, right? It's almost like, determining if Ted was a great bowler, right? If I watch him, throw a ball down the lane maybe like 3 times, I don't know, he might get lucky those 3 times, right? Like,
Yeah.
but if I watch him do
I
it,
would have to, being that I know
if,
I'm not a great bowler, but maybe yeah, okay.
but I mean, you'd have to really determine if he was a great bowler or is what he said he is. You'd have to watch him get a bunch
Many
of
games.
strikes across many games when you go bowling, right? So that's just one thing to kind of think of, because I was asked that question at some point in the last couple of weeks of like, how do I know I'm not just assuming. And it's like, well, usually if it's ringing a bell with you, and again, I always encourage everyone to look deep within, right? Because
Yeah.
sometimes, but yeah, like if if there is basically a oh my god, I can't think of the word right now, track record of
Hmm.
of
Hmm.
this kind of behavior, then that's usually what we go off of, right? So we're not just kind of watching somebody do one thing and then saying like, oh, they're high conflict, or oh, they're right. It's usually data collected over observation of actions or specific conversations, if you know how to probe the conversation properly. And then it basically becomes self-report data from the person, which is part of what we do as well. But yeah. So anyway, I'm
And
gonna
to that point, people who are dark traits really hate when you set a boundary. Other people may not love that, you've said, uh, you know, I'm really sensitive about that topic. I'd really prefer that we never really do that or talk about that. And most people, the 80% are going to respect that. They're going to, okay, that's out of bounds. That's cool. Um, and they won't violate it. Or if they do, they'll go, oh wait, I'm so sorry. I know that's a sensitive spot for you. Never mind. Let's talk about something else. Right? That's what people will do who have ego maturity, who are sort of in that 80% where they might want to talk about that, but they're going to respect you enough that they don't go there. Or, I mean, I make it clear I don't like to compete. And all of my friends know that I might just sit around and thoroughly enjoy them watching playing video games or a board game or something like that. Um, the one exception, I came up with one exception, by the way, Adrian, Cards Against Humanity. I'll play that. I
We
just
did
won't.
play that. Yeah.
Yes, I won't play it for competition. I play it for the laughs. So,
Mhm.
so I don't. It doesn't trigger my. I don't care. I just like the, it's hilarious. So that shows you how twisted I am, I guess. But um, so the high conflict people, they may behave like, oh, sure, I'll respect that boundary, but then they won't, and they will push and they'll prod, and part of that comes from the fact that they don't believe that any rule applies to them, including your rules, because they're entitled. And so, well, that's a rule you have for other people, but that doesn't apply to me, you know. So they will push on those, and that's a one way. If you find your boundaries are being pushed by somebody, in all likelihood, you are going to see a lot worse than that down the road if you let them in. If you let them get close to you. So, yes, um, you look like you're going to say something, Adrian.
Nope.
Nope,
Nope.
not
I
on that
was
one.
just I
Okay.
was just deep in thought.
Well, I wanted to hear your thoughts.
There is the odd time where I don't have anything to say.
Oh, oh my
It's really
goodness.
rare. It's almost like seeing a hummingbird, like it's just it doesn't happen often.
I'm speechless because I know what you're talking about.
I've,
I've only
I've seen
seen.
like three hummingbirds my
I
whole life.
know, me too. Yeah,
And
and
each time was wonderful because I'm just like, it looks like they don't have wings, but they're just flapping their wings so fast that it looks like they're levitating. And I'm
it's
gonna
true.
stop talking before I waste a half hour about hummingbirds. Go ahead, do the science. I'll be here.
All right. So, next point on this organization of self: don't take the blame, because they're not going to like boundaries and all the rest of it, but they are going to want to partition blame onto you, probably for something they have done. And you got to be blame neutral. You can hear it and not react and not apologize. You got to dismiss the guilt trips. And you've got to resist the temptation to fire back when they make an accusation. You know, um, you know, you don't care about me. Look at the way you're behaving. If you cared about me, you'd help me now, or you would, be supportive of me right now. And if you defend yourself, no, I really do care about you. They got you. They got you hooked in. So you're kind of blank and passive, and you sort of acknowledge that you've heard it, and you do nothing with it. It just kind of sits out there, unaddressed. It is not something you want to respond to. Um, so in a way, you know what's going on. This kind of segues into another point. You're kind of playing dumb as to what's driving them. You're sort of pretending that you don't already have them figured out and that you're working a behavior management plan in relation to them. You can't reveal that.
And that's something that a Machiavellian often does, not with behavior management plans, but like they will often pretend that they don't know what they're doing, right? In order to get the outcome that they want. But in our circumstance here, it's literally just an ethical outcome to make sure that nobody gets, psychologically harmed, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, very, very well put. So you're keeping your cards close to your chest. You're not saying, oh, this particular organization of self, this is because I have defined you as a high conflict or a dark trait person, and therefore this is how it will behave with you. You've just given away far too far, far too much information. They'll go Google all that, and then they'll come back and turn it around and say, I'm not high conflict. I'm not dark. You're dark. Look at the way you're behaving. So they manipulate everything. All the, reality shaping power without truth behind it is one of their central stock and trades. That is really what they want to do. And we talked about all the forms of gaslighting that they engage in, and one of the big ones being identity assault, trying to draw you in. What a horrible human being you are. What a lack of compassion you have. And you're only arriving at this because you have been exploited by them or know them to be exploitive of others, and you're refusing to let them have that emotional space within your emotions to manipulate. So yeah, you gotta withhold that first. And again, as Adrian's pointing out, that is Machiavellian, but it is a chosen Machiavellian, and you don't continue to choose it outside of the relationship that you're in this case, where you are protecting yourself from somebody who's dark. Um, yeah, what's next, Adrian?
I think, you know, there's just so much behavior that you gotta modify, right? And, you know, the more that you have to engage in these things, the more weird it can feel. That's something that, I really wanted to emphasize as well, is just, know that you're doing it for a reason. And if you had another option, like if we knew of other options, that's what we would be telling you, right?
Yeah,
Like I've had situations where like it was just, oh my god, like I hated it, right? It's just I'd get, I'm exaggerating, but like a 50-page email, right? And then I respond to it in one sentence,
yes,
right? And it's like that is the most unnatural thing ever to do.
yeah,
So, but yeah, and so we don't want you to put your guard down, right? Never assume they're being truthful. And something else is you really can't take the blame, right? Another really ego dystonic thing is you actually got to learn to be a bit dismissive
yes,
of what they're of essentially their emotions, right? Which sounds absolutely bonkers
yeah,
when I
yeah,
say that, because everything in psychology training is about validating emotions, right? And not
yeah,
being dismissive. But in this case, the emotions are being weaponized, guilt trips, right? Trying to make you shameful, trying to make you angry, trying to make you basically submit, right? So you got to kind of learn how to let the things roll off your shoulder and understand that it's a tactic, right? Or it's done with malice. And that's one of the things is yeah, how do we become more dismissive in that context? Again, super ego dystonic, right? Like
yeah.
I mean, if you ask anybody who's close to me in any way, like being dismissive is like it's almost like I don't know how to do it.
Antithetical to all your other
Yeah.
organizations of self, right?
And then the other thing too, though, is you can't fire back either. Even if, let's say, you're somebody that is, you know, you got a sharp tongue and you're good at asserting your point, and you're good at asserting yourself and shutting down arguments, and right, like that's a really good skill to have. You're basically talking to what's that thing when you're a kid? You're like talking to a bubble, right? Like it's just gonna bounce off them and
Right.
come back to you
Yeah.
in a way, right? Like they're not gonna actually absorb it and be like, oh, you know what? That's a good thought. You're right. I should no. Like it's just gonna become more fighting words, so to
More
speak, right?
fodder for their their high conflict. They
Yeah, and
and
so that's because I mean, like I've had countless conversations, Ted too, where
yeah,
we're sitting with somebody and they're like, well, you know what, I think if I just sit them down and I just really make a point of this is how things are done here and this is what needs to be done and blah blah blah, and we're like, like, don't try to you
convince
know
them. You
yeah,
will
don't
not bring them
you're
around by convincing them or coaching them.
right, and don't try to think of things that you're going to say in response to like another like forceful power tactic, right? Like don't try to like fight expert power with expert power, right? Like if
Yeah,
they're
yeah,
or reality shaping power with reality shaping power, right? You're not trying to fight fire with fire. You're
yeah.
trying to
To
basically dodge the fire, capture it, put it to the side, and continue navigating the situation. That was a weird
extinguish
analogy.
their flame. Yeah, but to extinguish the flame, their flame. They're trying to go from a, a pocket lighter to a forest fire. And if
Yeah.
you don't throw tinder into it, you don't throw more firewood into it, they got nothing to work with. So that's why you're flat affect. Um, and in this, remember, it's not about you. This is they would be doing this to anybody. So this isn't something unique to you that you're bringing this out in them. This is how they are wherever else they are in the world. And also, the organization of self that we're talking about here is one that has given up any hope of changing this person. So as I go into this robotic, flat affect organization of self, it isn't with a mindset to change them. It's to change our interaction patterns. It's to prevent them from using their powers tactics, their dirty power tactics, successfully on us. But it's not that we're going to, bring them to a place where they're going to have this aha moment. I've been so evil and rotten all these years, and now I will start treating this person well. No. So there can be no hope in this organization of self that by behaving this way, I'm going to change them. I'm going to change how they interact with me, but I'm not going to change them. And there won't be a point at which you won't need this organization of self 20 years down the road because they will have learned. No, if they detect that you're letting this down, they will come back full force and overwhelm you with all of their dirty tricks.
It's like those, and even like, personal relationships too, right? Like I know everybody's heard a version of the story of, the person who thought they could change somebody for the better, right? They saw bad behavior in the relationship if they were dating or married or whatever. And it was like, well, I can be the person to change them, right? I can, and those stories usually don't end very well, unfortunately, right? Because that's what we're seeing is, there's a very nice positive narrative about, treating people well and being treated well in return, but like unfortunately there's just situations where that's just not going to happen, right? And that's kind of the situation that we're trying to prepare people for, because it does get really dark the more we talk about this stuff, no pun
Mm-hmm.
intended. But like it can feel very, very hopeless, right? Having to, put on this organization of self and having to really kind of gear up for this kind of stuff, right? And yeah, I just can't emphasize that enough. And I'm kind of saying this right now because I'm reflecting on some unfortunate battles I've had to have, and I'm just like remembering how exhausting it was,
Yeah.
right? Because there was no other choice than to do this, right?
And as we pointed out when we were just talking about organizations of self overall, we talked about how, the first time you're rolling out or developing an organization of self for another social role, social situation, it's going to take more energy. It's going to, um, and those are normal, and they can become very egocentric over time because, hey, I want to define myself as an artist, so I'm going to go out there and take art classes, and my identity is going to shift through development of me as an artist, kind of stuff. That's all really cool, and that's all normal. This is a very deliberate one. This is one that you're not exploring, you're following the script, and it's not fun, and it will always take more energy. However, the more we practice being that robotic, flat affect version of ourselves, the less energy it will take. And you will feel, hey, this was a good outcome for me. I just had to interact with this person where I usually would walk away feeling like, 2 inches tall or beat up or manipulated or whatnot. And now I don't. And they're not happy with me, but I'm happy with the outcome. Right. So it will take a little less energy, but it probably will never become something that you enjoy doing. That's a point here too, right?
Yep.
So, yep. So let's bring in BIF. We'll remind people of BIF, which is this acronym for brief, informative, firm, and courteous. Now, if you're listening carefully, courteous doesn't start with an F. In Bill Eddy's work, where they identified BIF, they say friendly. We say courteous. Friendly means that I might give too much information away, whereas courteous means you're polite, but you're not giving any personal information because it will be weaponized against you. So brief information, like Adrian, you just said, you get a 50-page email and you reply with one line. That's BIF, right? And
Yep.
you identify, what do I have to respond to here, if anything? And in fact, not even a whole 50-page email might require a response. But if I give them anything, they will use it. And they will not be happy if you biff, right? So you gotta, that's, so as Adrian, you were saying earlier too, it can be really hard for an extrovert to withhold so much information.
Oh yeah, like
Um,
a situation I'm thinking of, like there's so many emails in my daily life that, one of the first things I say in the email is like, "Hey, thank you for reaching out. It's great to hear from you," or something like that, right?
yeah,
And in those Biff situations, I'm like, nope, I can't say thank you to them. I can't
no,
say nice to hear you. Like, you just have to directly address the main thing that they're saying,
yeah,
as short and as brief, informative, firm, and courteous as possible, right? And
yeah.
then that's it. Like, because all of these things can be weaponized, right? Thank you for reaching out to me. Oh, well, you know what? You're not going to be thankful in a minute if blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, or you always indicate how helpful I am because you always say thank you, for
Yeah,
your
like
email,
just,
right?
yeah,
Yeah, they'll twist they will twist anything. It's staggering what they're able to do.
yeah.
And they've been doing it all their lives, right? So less is more when it comes to dealing with people with dark traits. Another point is whenever humanly possible, have a witness because they will confabulate, they will lie about what you did in a meeting or in a phone conversation or what have you. So have a witness, or if possible, reply in writing, email, text. And if you do text, screenshot it. Like, don't delete them, right? Um, and because things in writing are much better for holding somebody to account. They'll even try and well, that's not what you said. You doctored the email or you changed the text or they'll all kinds of crazy stuff like that. But they have no problem lying. So you want a witness, and and that witness needs to know what you're doing. Because if I just had a witness and then I'm being robotic, they're going to look at me and they're going to go, wow, you're harsh. Or wow, like what are you? And they could easily side and be duped into that by that dark person. Yeah, you see how I get treated? Like, look at this man. Like this guy, look, he sets all these boundaries. He says I can't talk about this, I can't talk about that, like, what's wrong with him? So the witness better know. They better be in on the behavior management planning, right? That this is what you're doing and this is necessary in order to be protected. Again, you don't need the witness so much if you're being able to do all this in writing, because the witness is the correspondence that is there. And you need to be in the organization of self when you're doing your replies too. It's not just face to face with them. You got to go in this organization of self to be successful at communicating with that one line. Yeah. Yeah. So this is going to be exhausting. That means that you want to choose the time where you go into and have this interaction. If you're doing it at the end of the day and you're tired already, there's two reasons why you need the energy. First, this is deliberate. It takes energy. It's not pleasant way of organizing yourself, being in relation to people. And then afterwards, if it's been an exchange between that person and it's not in writing, you got to go back and document. So I've literally been in situations where I've got enough energy to hold my own in relation to this dark personality. And then I know I got to go and write it down and put an email and follow up with it. Here's what we talked about. Here's what you agreed to do. Here's what I agreed to do. Here's the dates by which we're going to do them, sort of thing. And I'm exhausted. So you gotta really choose. We're going to say choose your battles that's coming up, but also choose the time of the battle when you have the energetic resources available to you. And it's really important to document immediately after. If you wait the weekend, they will maybe have done things already, um, but the sooner you follow up and put it in writing, the better for you in the long run. Did you add anything to that one, Adrian?
No, nailed it.
Okay. Um, so, uh, yeah, it's exhausting. Choose your timing. We'll come back to choose your battles. This organization of self is not a joint problem solving organization of self. it is a solution to your problem that this person is dark and trying to manipulate, control, and get more power. But it is not a joint problem solving organization of self. It's not a collaborative version of you, right?
Yeah,
Um,
I was just gonna say, one of the things that we differentiate is like we do training on collaborative conflict resolution, right? Like
yes,
it
KDR, right?
works.
Yeah,
It works for 80% of people, right? And it's
yeah.
a fantastic training. It's, very positive, evidence-based, right? That doesn't even hold a torch in these situations, unfortunately, because the person is just not going to collaborate with you, right?
Or they're going to appear to and then pull the rug out from under you.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
so it's unfortunately, yeah, like we it's not a collaborative organization of self, right? It's
Yeah.
yeah.
Then we talked about with Biff the 6 things, the 6 A's to avoid. And so keep this one in mind. You don't, when you're in this organization of self and interacting with this person, you don't give advice, even though you would love to. You don't make accusations, um, even though they're probably warranted. You don't admonish them. You shouldn't be like this. You should be more like this, and that sort of thing, because that will just feed all of this stuff will backfire and feed them. You don't make assumptions. Well, I'm sure that you're not going to be happy with my decision to set this boundary. However, I'm setting this boundary. Just say, I'm setting this boundary. Don't infer how they're going to be about it. They will grab that and they'll go, yeah, you're damn right I am. And why are you doing this to me? And they'll just seize the narrative, right? And they'll take that, they'll divert away from the boundary that you were just about to set. So don't make assumptions about how they're going to feel or what they're going to think. Just tell them what what the deal is. Do not apologize. Adrian mentioned this earlier. Don't say thank you. Don't apologize, because they will. Most people will go, "Hey, they're a bigger person. They apologized. They're not going to weaponize that. These individuals will take that as evidence that they've been egregiously treated in the past because you had to apologize. That's evidence you were wrong, and that's what they will do with it. So you don't apologize, and above all else, don't argue. And we'll show you some tactics for that coming up. But don't argue with them because they're looking for an argument. That's their turf. That's the place that they're most comfortable. Their brain is really happy. That's why we call it high conflict. You know, um, so people with dark traits, most of them will really love to get you in a place where you're arguing because they're going to use greater experience and quite likely could put you in a bad space. So um, let's see. We want to absorb information without the need to respond at the present time. So one of their tactics is to manufacture urgency, and they'll pepper you with, and I need to know now, or this horrible thing will happen if we don't. You need to, in this robotic way, be very, very calm and not, oh my goodness, oh gosh, okay, yeah, we got to solve this. No, you don't want to do that. You take your time. You absorb the information and you say, I'll get back to you on that. Well, we got to know right away. "Hmm, I'll get back to you on that. And no, not justification. Don't say, I need time to process that or I need to check your facts or anything like that. I'll get back to you on that. And that's a boundary right there. I'm saying what I'm going to do. Um, yeah, just absorb it and you determine when the conversation reconvenes. Um, and so in this, there's a phrase that can be very powerful for you to use because they're going to try and spin things. They're using reality shaping power to frame others as evil, and you have to help me overcome those other evil people, or you're evil and you need to change. Those are the sort of the kinds of messages. And so, a phrase that you can utilize in situations like this, lots of variances, will be um, I have nothing to say to that. I don't operate within the same reality as you're operating within. Okay. And it's a statement of fact for you. Now, you're not trying to change them. We know they're not going to change. So, this organization of self isn't out to change their minds or change their heart or anything like that. And you don't have to argue about the validity of your reality either. And they don't know what to do with this. You say, I don't operate with the same reality. I hear what you're saying. I hear that you see the problem is with me. I have nothing to say to that. I'm not operating with the same reality as you are. And so I'm going to do what I'm going to do. And I'm not going to do anything with that. It will drive them crazy. And that's not the point either. But it's because it'll drive them crazy because they're not getting traction. They want to frame you as the villain or frame somebody else as a villain, and you're now a villain, not trying to helping me take on that villain. And it's like, I hear what you're saying. I hear that you're saying that Adrian is the worst person on the face of the planet. I don't live in that same reality with you. Um, I'm not prepared to do anything that you're asking me to do right now. And it's not a debate, you know. Um, that's what's going on there. It's I've got nothing to say to that. I don't operate in the same reality as you. They don't. They're not prepared for that one. What they will come up with later on, because that'll come boundaries. Yeah, that's what you always say. We don't live in the same fucking reality. Oops, I just dropped an F bomb, didn't I? Oh yeah, we've done that before. We're all right. But we hear this, and so they're trying to cajole you out of this position of saying, yeah, I'm not in your reality, and I'm not going to respond to that. But you're not arguing with them, right? You're not giving them what they want. They would love you to argue with them more than you just to remain that flat. Um, so it's firm boundaries in this organization of self. And do you have anything? We got about 4 more bullet points to go on this one, and then
Or
we're,
more.
we're
All
one
right.
more. Yeah,
We're at 62 minutes, so let's go
we
through
can
the
get this in.
yeah.
Okay.
Let's go through the 4.
All right. So you want to choose your battles. We talked about that. And in the workplace, our criteria for how to choose battles will be, if it's mission critical, then that's a battle you probably have to fight. Or if what they're doing or not doing, or whatever the topic is culturally corrosive. So if it doesn't impact the mission and it doesn't impact negatively the culture, then like it could be, what's an example? You're a crappy manager or you're a crappy leader, right? Um, okay, thanks. Remember the report is due tomorrow. You know, uh, and I probably wouldn't even say thanks. Okay, I hear you. You're not pleased with how I lead. The report is due tomorrow, and or your behavior in that meeting was inappropriate, and if I see that again, I'll ask you to leave the meeting uh, because that was not acceptable behavior in this organization. So those are the battles you want to pick, and anything else that is diverting attention away from mission and culture. And remember, culture is not just a good thing; it's a necessary thing. Culture determines everything about how a team, a corporation, a division ultimately works, for good or not. And so, if they are willfully trying to destroy a positive culture, which they will do, you want to deal with those issues. Um, I think we already talked about this next one. We don't want to fall for manufactured urgency. You take your time, um, and don't fall for feigned innocence. They know what they're doing. That's one of the points we keep making about these individuals. They know exactly what they're doing. Oh, I didn't know. Well, I was just trying to give honest feedback, and they'll virtue signal about being honest. But we've had this discussion before. I have never seen a time where you have to be cruel to be kind or cruel to be supportive. That's all absolute bullshit. There are ways to give difficult information to people and still treat them with dignity and respect. Absolutely. And and what they'll come back is, oh, so I'm not allowed to give them, feedback about how they can get better. Okay, I see. No, that's not what it's about. It's how you're doing it.
Oh, I'm not allowed to tell them like it is.
Yeah,
Or
yeah.
what's my other favorite? Oh no, I'm saying it like this to you because I respect you.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
ever hear that one? Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's all the gaslighting stuff, right?
Yeah.
Or everybody else is two-faced. They won't tell you who you really are, but I'm doing you a big favor. You should be thankful to me for me telling you that you're a shit boss. You
Yeah.
know. Yeah. And they will try to get under your skin and accuse you of being, of victimizing them, being heartless, of being uncaring or unfair. You can't move on any of that. Okay, I hear you. I don't live in the same reality as you do. What are you saying? I'm stupid? Or you think I'm crazy? I don't live in the same reality as you do. I'm not going to take action on what you've just said, and then you go quiet. And they might storm out or they may raise their voice some more and you can't give anything back. And again, this is where you want a witness for situations like this. And then the last point that we want to make here is a little bit counterintuitive, but it comes out of the research. I mean, all this is coming out of the research, but these individuals, this isn't well articulated in a lot of the literature, but we do know that this is true. They they respond to stimulus and response. And that means the old Skinnerian psychology of, push this bar, you get a food pellet, push that other bar, you get a shock. And very quickly, a rat in a Skinner box will learn if I push this bar, I get fed. And if I push this bar, it will hurt. So I won't do that anymore. That's basic learning. And these individuals, they have to learn every time they push that particular bar, boundary that you've set, they will not get a reward. They will get a shock. They're not obviously physically going to shock them, but they also, interestingly enough, respond even better to reward. And so when you're having a discussion like this and you're flat, and you finally get them in a place where they are behaving not because they want to, but because they don't have any other choice appropriately, then at that point you can say, this meeting was really effective. This is how I would like you to behave going forward in future meetings. And you're not saying I'll do this or, it's not exchange. It's this was a very productive meeting. If you come in and we have these discussions like this going forward in the future, you're going to be very successful here. So we're actually praising them when they don't do the bad things. Now, anybody else who is not dark and who would not do those things anyway, you wouldn't have to end the meeting with, I just want to reinforce that you were very good in this meeting. You might say, hey, we always have great meetings. When Adrian walks in my office, I know things, whatever problem he's got, we're going to walk out with an agreeable solution and he's going to implement it. You could say that to somebody who's not dark. But with these dark individuals, you've got to say when they do it well or right or correctly, that this is the behavior that I need to see from you, right? And uh, yeah, and that can be hard, but again, you got to point out when they're on the mark, when they're pushing the food pellet button or bar, and not the shock, and that will actually help set the learning much more, and so that's our sketch of this organization of self. What would you add there, Adrian?
Um, Honestly, that pretty much nailed it. But we do have something else coming up. So I
We
wonder
do.
if it's
Yeah.
good
Shall I
time
tell?
to break for that.
Yeah. So when we come back, we're going to have our second commercial break. Usually we have one, but we're going to introduce to the world a new member of Folks Leadership Group. We're going to give her an interview and let everybody know how we're getting stronger and better for a new member joining. So when we come back, we're going to introduce you to Dr. Narjes Azizi and fill you in on her role with the team and what she's bringing to our clients. And yeah, how's that?
She is way more professional than me too, so it's going to be epic.
Oh, it'll be epic. Epic. Oh, she's better than all of us. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. All
Yeah,
right, well,
that's true.
stay tuned. We'll be back soon.
Today's spotlight is on crisis response and trauma leadership. When organizations face crises, tragedies, or workplace violence, leaders are suddenly dealing with trauma, fear, and shattered trust, all while trying to keep operations running. Here at Volk's Leadership Group, we provide leadership supports for crises response and crisis turmoil, helping you stabilize your people, navigate through complex power dynamics, and rebuild psychological safety after the dust settles. Thank you, and back to today's episode.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Social Power Lab. This is Volk's Leadership Group and everyone's favorite plus-size French boy, Adrian Deschamps II, coming at you with a new friend and a new colleague and just a new wonderful person. Honestly, we're very very lucky to have found her, and we would like to introduce you to Dr. Narjes Azizi, and you know, I'm already blown away. I'm already blown away. I have to say it.
We're all blown away. There's an emoji for that. It is the little emoji with the little,
Oh
exploding
yeah,
thing in the
with that,
middle. Yeah,
yeah,
that's what I feel like with
with like
Narges. It's true.
confetti.
Yeah, yeah, it should be. Yeah. So we're what we're gonna do is take a few minutes and interview Narges so she can tell you a bit about herself and what she's doing with the team. She's transforming us in so many wonderful ways because she has two roles with our team. I'll define those, and then I'm going to hand it over to her to tell us her story. But I'll give you a little bit of background. She's a senior practitioner. She already has one doctorate, but that wasn't enough. She's doing her second. I'll let her fill in the details there. So she's gonna be a doctor when she's done her second. But we got her in the meantime. So senior practitioner, and then because she happens to be a polymath, you have to Google that because I'm but she's also going to be is becoming our practice manager. So she'll be doing, client relations and all of the cool things that a practice manager was doing. And then she practices. So she's joining us, has been with us for a few months now, but it's time we rolled it out to the world. So,
You know
so
what?
Nerd, yeah.
I'm just gonna cut off right here and interrupt because that's what I do. I am calling you Doctor for the rest of my life. I just want you to know.
Well, you got to wait until she graduates with the second one, but
Yeah,
yeah, but
Doctor.
yeah,
I think it'll
yeah.
be.
I think that we got Amir, Dr. Dark, right? And
We have Jedi Master Doctor Edward Vokes II, and now we have Doctor Narjes Azizi. This is amazing.
it's incredible. It's
Yeah,
fun. So let's let her talk now.
I'll try. Try my best.
Hey, hello everybody. Hello Adrian and Ted. Thank you so much for having me in this episode. Actually, I am a big fan of your podcast, and I try to listen the podcast and learn. In addition, I actually be present in most of workshops and training modules. I'm so lucky to being here and in there actually in the workshops, and also I would like to learn more. And the podcast I think is a good chance to learn about everything in the social power and everything related to things that Ted and Adrian share with us. Thank you so much for having me.
That's a lovely, kind
Thank
way
you.
to lead in. Yeah, but we
I'm
feel
about to
that we're the
cry.
fortunate ones.
Yeah, honestly, that was so nice. Oh my god.
So
Thank
Narges, why
you.
don't you tell everybody a bit about yourself and how you found your way into this motley crew of practitioners in
Mhm.
industrial organizational psychology. Tell us your story, please.
Yes, I would be happy to share that. If I want to start from the first, I started my bachelor in marine biology in my country, but at the same time, I started working in a bank. It wasn't easy actually, but because after graduation, I decided to change my study into social science because maybe at that time it was a kind of force, but I'm so happy right now that I chose that decision. And also, at the same time, I continue working in a banking system and studying the social science, master, and PhD. Fortunately, I could start working, uh, actually, my knowledge and applying my knowledge in the Office of Research and specialize
This
in
is
the
for the
human
bank,
resource.
right? Yeah. So
Yes, human
you
resource.
weren't doing banking. You were working in the bank and doing
Yeah,
elections.
in different offices, but after actually graduation from my PhD, I started working as a researcher in the uh, field of human resource research in the organization. Fortunately, because I had some kind of publications and worked in this field, I had some kind of collaboration and relationship with some professors in Canada, and I would like to continue my actually improve my knowledge in this field uh, in developed countries. For this reason, I decided to immigrate to Canada as a visiting researcher at the university. And then, because we were working on the trust with my supervisor, we decided to continue our collaboration with another PhD, but in the field of organizational psychology or psychology. But my major field is applied social psychology, but I focus mostly on organizational psychology. That it was my dream. I love that because in this major I could apply all of my knowledge that I've gathered or collected in my previous job in an academic and applicable method. And then I was lucky again that I actually know Ted. We had some kind of conversation about our interesting and about our research interest, and then I could actually join to this group. I am so honored. Thank you so much, Ted, for actually accepting me. I am trying to learn and also apply all of things that I'm learning in the practice.
And you're leaving it just a little bit of a chunk because you also collaborated with Amir, who worked in the same
Yes.
lab. And we can say Dr. Catherine Qantas is the
Yes.
we're a huge fan of her and her lab, and proud that you're a part of it and that Amir has, and you and Amir just presented a poster at
Yes.
CPA, Canadian Psychological Association in Montreal this past week.
Yes, exactly. Actually, Amir collected some data in the field of integrity definition. And because I'm a mixed method researcher, I could help him to analyze the qualitative data. And fortunately, we could actually have some accept from the CPA conference, and we showed our analysis and results in that conference.
It's fantastic. That's awesome. So yeah, when we as we've been learning more about you and you've been learning about us through different means, it just became a natural fit, and it was like, yeah, let's have you join the team. And then we found out even more about you, and it became really clear that I should not be running this team. You should be. And so, um, as that dawned on us, it was like, they're just interested in running the practice, and so this is the tremendous benefits because she's very business minded, very process management minded, and all the rest. So she's been kind enough to take on a second role with us. But you've already been involved in training in our learning labs. You've already been involved in a full blown several culture audits already, which culture reviews, but in our biz, it's called a culture audit. With clients, we don't call it that, but so we've gathered some pretty intense amounts of data around functioning organizations and interpret that, bring it back, and
Yes.
already done a lot on situations that have involved dark individuals in workplaces and whatnot. So yeah, all of that. Um, and before we go too far down the heavy duty academic route, what are some fun facts, Narjes, about you? Let's make you a full blown real person to
Give
the
us
world.
the details.
Yeah,
What
spill the
things-
tea.
Honestly,
Okay.
I'm gonna take a guess. I'm gonna take a guess. Okay, skydiving.
Oh, skydiving.
No,
What should say my feeling?
I mean, have you? Would you?
Yes, I had this experience
Oh
before,
my God, see, I knew
and
it. I had a feeling.
it was incredible. I would like to do it again, and I think you know, the feeling of jumping in less than 1 second. I think it was incredible. I couldn't believe that. How and I remember that feeling in my body. I love that.
That's awesome. That was a really lucky guess. But anyways, continue to tell us more fun facts because that is a very awesome and badass.
Yes. Yeah, and yeah, I actually I'm fan of swim and cycling. Sometimes I love some things that are not related to it. Maybe a woman in my
You have a
age, but
life beyond psychology and sociology, right? Yeah.
yeah, I consider myself as an adventure woman and would like to actually experience some exciting activities. And if my academic, activities allow me, I would like to do it more than the things that I am doing right now.
You're in a good place to do all of those things.
Yeah.
Absolutely, and more. And how many people do you know who end up, with two PhDs who started out in, marine biology, right? And right into banking out of marine biology.
Mm,
So I mean, that is such a cool career trajectory that you've taken. So we
in
benefit from it all the time.
sociology, there was some kind of scientist in sociology that started from biology, but I don't know any scientists, or no working in. Maybe there is, because especially in the past, people started their academic, studies from biology mostly. Then, after changing the mind, maybe they focus on uh, human science too.
Yeah.
Uh, but I think biology study helped me to understand something about the brain, how it works, and I am so happy that I had that experience in that part of my life. Um, but honestly, I like more the human science. Right
Well,
now, I like that more.
I'm gonna go out on a limb here and see if I don't know if you'll have an answer to this too, but what I'm fascinated by, because I'm curious about everything, and I, stupidly watch documentaries that I know nothing about just to learn a little bit about them. There are some sea creatures that are very successful sea creatures that do not have a brain. And I know the
Mm,
starfish don't have a centralized brain. They seem to have
yes.
neurons clustered throughout their various appendages. I think
Hmm.
most starfish are five arms or something like that. And I know that at least some of the jellyfish do not actually have something that we could identify as a brain, and yet they float around and eat and make baby jellyfish, and they're very successful. So
Hmm.
I often wonder how necessary it is that maybe there's just a big vacancy and my head is there for decorative purposes only. I don't know. We could find out.
I feel like this might be why my teachers always called me a jellyfish when I was a kid because I had
Oh, they knew. Is that?
just making that up. You lined me up for it.
Yeah, no. Do you know anything about species that seem to be brainless but nonetheless quite successful? Apart from myself, thank you.
You know, when I was watching a video about one octopus, the name was My Teacher Octopus. I don't know you've seen that or not.
No.
You know, my mind completely changed about this creature. Uh, Octopus has a good brain, and the behavior of this creature is incredible and exceptional. And I suggest to watch this video.
Yeah, no, they're apparently amongst the the smartest of all sea creatures, or at least that are non-vertebrate. I mean, you get in whales and dolphins, they're pretty smart too.
Mhm. Yes.
But yeah, so and they don't have a bone in their body. They have like a beak, but they
Yes.
don't have, anything else. And but obviously they
Yeah. The episode changed to marine biology rather than psychology.
that's that is awesome. Well, we're going to have Narjes on. You're going to hear more from her going forward at various times, but she is busy doing two roles within the practice too. But we just want to announce to the world that she's on board, and we're really fortunate to have her. And you'll hear more from her. And if you work with us in organizational context, you're going to see her and Adrian and me and Amir, and we have a few other members of the team that we're going to be interviewing in the future as well, so that you get to know people beyond the three amigos who come on here on a weekly basis. And because we are I'd like to say a very powerful team that can bring all manner of industrial organizational psychology to your workplace as you may require it. But it is in the end all about power. And we don't mean that cynically. We mean that the very greatest things that humanity's achieved have been through the same 12 forms of social power as the very worst of humanity has created. And we will continue to be leaders in bringing that message to the planet through the books we're writing and through the podcasts we're delivering and through our practice work. So thank you for coming out today and introducing yourself to the world, Narjes, and happy birthday. It
Thank you
happens
so much.
to be your birthday
Happy
today.
birthday.
Yeah.
Thank you
So
so much. For the last, actually, thing that I would like to share my experience about how much organizational psychology is important for the world. You know, when I was working in a big organization for a long time, I had a lot of questions that I gave my answers during a study in this field. And I think all organizations should actually think about how these measures help them to have and improve actually the organization and make that environment better for the employees.
awesome. Couldn't have said it better.
Yeah, very well said.
Yeah. So
Thank you
thank
so
you.
much for having me.
Yeah.
Thank you.
for
Happy
joining us.
birthday.
Thank
And
you.
Adrian, happy birthday whenever that does happen. I didn't want to leave you out. I just want
No, it'll be
we'll
quite
we'll
some
we'll
time from now, but thank you. I'm
we'll do a birthday episode for Adrian. Everybody favorite birthday
Yes,
boy. Yeah.
please.
Yeah, we'll do that.
I
All
will do
right.
that.
Well, we'll see everybody next week. Yeah, think power out there.
yeah. And this is Vokes Leadership Group, and we will see you next time.
Thank you for listening to the Social Power Lab podcast. Make sure you join us next week as we continue to uncover the hidden dynamics of social power all around us, because every conversation changes the world one interaction at a time. You can listen to the Social Power Lab podcast on YouTube under Social Power Lab _VLG, on Spotify under Social Power Lab, on Substack under Social Power Lab, and on Apple Podcast under Social Power Lab. Thank you and have a wonderful day. A special thank you to Dr. Narjes Azizi for joining us on today's episode. It's always a pleasure to have her with us both on the podcast and in the workplace. This podcast was produced by Trenton Vokes. The theme was produced and written by Adrian Deschamps.